Classic.
Intrepid.
Amazing. Love it.
It's about doing what you believe in first and foremost.
Indie is a frame of mind.
The kind of band that everybody wants to be the first to discover and champion.
Just raw energy, and really glad to see that back in the music today.
Yeah, 100 million records. That's a lot of records. It's challenging, it's interesting, it's non-mainstream.
It was pretty interesting back then. It was definitely about the music, and we were kind of the bastard stepchild when we first started. I mean, you have to remember, we and Warner Music Group at the time were huge. Them being as big as they were, that they couldn't really concentrate on a lot of these smaller, developing artists that were kind of deemed at the time alternative.
I'm not sure that I fully knew what was happening when I came over. We were in business, but barely in business.
It was deemed right away, by the corporate people there, that we were a downtown company.
In order to get furniture, we basically trolled around the outskirts of the Warner Empire for companies that they had closed to see if we could, dumpster dive to rescue chairs and desks.
You know how when you do your taxes, you take out all your receipts that are in the shoebox and you spread them out and you try to figure out what's going on. ADA did not even have the shoebox.
I will say the new release books were substantially smaller. They read like novels now. That was a big difference.
I was extremely fortunate, really, in inheriting a great group of people that were already in place. We just needed to figure out what we needed to do and do it pretty quickly. It was establishing the management structure of the company and the salespeople, and then ultimately attracting the labels. The Warner management realized, hey, this is going to be something that's a long-term build. I think it paid off. I think that it turned into something pretty good.
And then when Sub Pop came on, that really was a huge lift to us because they were, best label going at the time.
I don't know that we would have ever made it without our partnership with Sub Pop. But when we were able to secure relationships with Touch and Go and with Matador and work with the labels that were originally associated with Warner labels like Mute, that really established what we could do. And then a couple of records come along.
In the early years, our first was Liz Phair.
But you've never been no waste of my time.
And then Better Than Ezra. But it was years in between those.
We picked up momentum, I think, really in 97, 98. We've had two really great relationships that have evolved into direct relationships by virtue of our Warner connection. And one is New Line Cinema and the other is Comedy Central. One example of something that we just had no idea how big it was going to be was a Love and Basketball soundtrack. Again, kind of surprised everybody in terms of the staying power of the film, and then the soundtrack itself had its own life. In the case of Comedy Central now, we have a wonderful relationship.
I went like this. I went,
that kind of single-handedly reignited the whole comedy genre.
He's trying to play off like he didn't get hit by a car. Awesome.
I don't know that we ever quite envisioned this for ourselves.
The digital thing has kind of changed the way that we think about everything now. This idea of, I'm going to discover something and I think it's great and I want all my people to know about it. And that's now happening in so many different ways and so rapidly. It has a huge effect on how quickly music travels. Everybody gets what this means now, and it's different. It's vastly different than it was a year or two ago.
We look over the digital market share, and ADA is really, leading the way.
I remember when I lost my mind.
We're starting to pull together different initiatives that incorporate physical retail, value adds with digital music, and mobile content as well. I feel like we're just broadening opportunities for our labels, and I don't feel like it's changing the company. If it's viewed as that, I think it's changing it for the better, for sure.
ADA has an incredible culture. and they seem to always do what's right.
I think we're going to continue on this path of success. I feel very confident in that again, because of the people that are here and because we have the right leadership and we have fantastic music.
It's important to take what's been created thus far, grab that momentum that's in place right now and run with it. And really, continue to service the labels in the tradition of what Andy and Michael and David and the rest of the crew have built.
It's not so much that you have the gold or the platinum. It's also the music that we present out there that doesn't do 500,000 units. If you take a small band and can start them at 5,000 and get them to 25, because there you see the labels and the artists and ADA really working, really developing it.
Yeah, at one point the indie thing I think was really precious. It used to mean that it was small and eclectic. It's not small and eclectic anymore. It used to mean that it had no connection with major record companies. There's a lot of major record companies that if they're not involved at this point with the independent music scene, they're missing something. The way that we measure things, yeah, it's a significant amount of records, and it's a diverse group of records. But yeah, 100 million records, that's a lot of records.